Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing a what we eat in a week video. So on this day I'm making some bratwurst and fried sauerkraut for lunch. You can also see my Dutch oven here on the stove. I am simmering a ham bone, making some broth because I'm going to be making some ham and bean soup for a meal tomorrow. I found a ham in my freezer that we had in there since Easter, and so it's definitely time to finish that off. And we've been eating a lot of ham this week, and now it is almost finished, and so I'm going to make some ham and bean soup. So with my bratwurst and sauerkraut, I'm also going to be making some homemade french fries. I'm just slicing those up and frying them up in my Fry Daddy with some lard, and then I'll just top them with a little bit of salt. That is a very easy side to most meals that we make. For the bratwurst, I'm just making them in my cast iron skillet, and for the sauerkraut, I'm just frying it in a little bit of butter in the cast iron skillet. I'm going to take a quick break from cooking in the kitchen to thank today's video sponsor, Harry's. If you've been around my channel for long, you have heard me talk about Harry's before. My husband and I both love the Harry's razor, and several of my family members as well. If you guys have seen any of my past, like gift basket type videos, I've put these in Father's Day gift baskets and also in several of my different Christmas baskets that I did for the last couple of years. The Harry starter kit comes with the razor, the travel blade cover, and also the shaving cream. I love the shaving cream because it's made with natural, soothing ingredients for the skin like aloe. It smells so good. I wish that you guys could smell it through the camera. I just love the way that it smells. The super sharp handcrafted blades are fair price razors for everyone with premium quality at an affordable price. The blades are made in their own factory in Germany, where they have been making blades for 100 years. The high quality blades are complete with a precision trimmer and flex hinge, which is definitely my favorite feature of the razor. If you are ready to try Harry's, you can get the starter kit for just $5. That's a $13 value for just $5 using my link in my description box below or going to harrys.com/ouroilyhouse. Alright, so this is the next day and my ham is finished cooking, so I'm picking all of the meat off of the bone for my soup, and then I'm going to get some white beans started in my Instapot. To do this, I'm just adding the beans and some filtered water to my Instapot, and then I'm also adding a little bit of apple cider vinegar. I like to add that in because that makes the beans a little bit easier to digest and better for the gut. So I'm just going to put all that in, put the lid on, and let the beans cook. I'm going to be making some homemade cornbread to go along with this ham and bean soup. Oddly enough, today is one of the hottest days of the year, and I am making ham and bean soup and cornbread, which is definitely more of a winter meal. But as I've said here before on my channel, I do love the benefits of bone broth, and so even though it's maybe not as appealing to eat soup during the summer months, we do have it about once a week just to make sure that we're getting that nice, nutritious bone broth. I will link this cornbread recipe down below, but I'm just mixing together a couple cups of all-purpose flour, a couple cups of cornmeal, a few tablespoons of white cane sugar, and then I am melting some butter in a cast iron skillet. I just put the butter in there and stick it in the oven, and that will preheat my cast iron skillet while melting the butter, and then it also has my cast iron skillet nice and greased whenever I put the batter in it. I'm whisking in some eggs, a little bit of milk, and then that melted butter, and this will be ready to bake. And then while this is baking, I will finish putting together my ham and bean soup. Now, also on the topic of it being the hottest day of the year, our AC went out yesterday, and so if I look sweaty during this video, that is the reason why. By the time I'm doing this voiceover, this is after this week, and my husband did get the AC fixed, so we are only out of air for not quite 2 days. I would say it was about 36 hours. It got extremely hot in our house, but with fans and windows open, we survived, and I am so thankful that the AC is back on. Once the beans were done, I strained the water off, and then I diced up some onions and got my Dutch oven heated up with a little bit of butter in it and added in some garlic just to get this sauteed up. This is the perfect base for any soup, is sauteed onions and garlic. Now, while that is all simmering on the stove, I'm doing a quick cleanup here. I find that if I just kind of clean as I go, it makes it way less overwhelming at the end of the meal. And I really like when the kitchen's halfway cleaned up when I sit down to enjoy the meal with my family. So I'm just quickly getting done some of the dishes that I needed to prep this meal and wiping off countertops. And then once we are done eating, there won't be as many dishes to clean up after our mealtime. All right, so back to the soup here. The onions and garlic are nice and translucent, so I'm adding in my beans and my shredded ham. Then I'm pouring in my bone broth. Notice how gelled up that bone broth is. That is some nice, healthy broth, and the reason why we eat soup all year round. I'm adding in some salt and pepper, a little bit of garlic powder, and some Italian seasonings into this, and then I'm going to stir it up. My cornbread is finished. You can see I already pulled that out of the oven. So I'm going to let this simmer for a few more minutes while I get the table set. We had a lot of leftovers of this lunch, and so we actually had this for dinner as well. I love when I can make a double batch of something and it can yield 2 meals for my family. It just means less time in the kitchen for me and more time to enjoy the kiddos and all the fun things we have planned this summer. All right, so this afternoon, my husband went and picked up our beef order. We get all of our meat in bulk from my sister's farm, and we were out of everything. We ran out a couple of weeks ago, so I had some ground beef that I got from her, but I was really excited to refill this freezer with lots of steaks and roast, and I also got some whole chickens from her, so our freezer is back in action. All right, so for this next meal, I am doing a homemade hamburger helper. I still had some ground beef defrosting in the refrigerator before I got my new meat order. So this will be another meal with ground beef, but then I'll be able to break into the roast and steaks later on this week. I'm just starting off by boiling some noodles in a big pot, and then I'm browning some ground beef in a cast iron skillet. Again, adding in a bunch of diced onions and minced garlic. To be honest with you, sometimes I just start a meal by chopping up onions and garlic, maybe not even knowing what I'm making yet. But as long as I have onions and garlic going, I know I can get a good meal. I pretty much put it in everything. I just think it adds so much flavor, and I just love the nutrition that it gives as well. I'm adding in some spices to my meat as well. I did a little bit of salt, pepper, and paprika. All right, so now I am shredding some cheese to go into my hamburger helper. Once the noodles were finished cooking, I drained them and added in about a half of a cup of butter back into that pan, and then I put the noodles back into it and added in the cheese to make the sauce. My noodles still had a few more minutes to boil, so I went ahead and got some dishes cleaned and put away, again just to make that cleanup time later a little bit more smooth. After I got the cheese in, I added in a little bit of milk and also some Dijon mustard. Then I stirred all of this together to get all of the cheese melted and combined all the flavors. Then I added the ground beef in, and this is a one-pot meal that is ready to go. Again, this meal served our family twice, which was great because we had plans this afternoon, and then when we got home, dinner was all ready to go. After setting the table, I sliced up some avocado. I love serving avocado with anything starchy like pasta or even on pizza or toast or anything. I think it adds so much flavor, and then it's just another great way to get my kids to eat more avocados. All right, this next day is going to be a busy day in the kitchen. We have a bunch of garden fresh zucchinis and yellow summer squash and cucumbers from the garden, and so I'm going to be prepping and making a few things with these. I'm starting off by making a bunch of zucchini bread. I ended up making 5 loaves of zucchini bread, and when I'm recording this is actually the day before the 4th of July, and we had a busy 4th of July day that started early in the morning. So I made the zucchini bread knowing that we would be able to eat this in the morning for breakfast before heading out for our first 4th of July activity, which was a parade, and then we had a party after that as well. So anyway, I was making zucchini bread for that, but then I also made a lot of extra. We ended up eating several loaves, and then I ended up freezing 2 of the loaves that I could pull out at a later time. But I just figured if I was making it and I had so much zucchini already shredded up, I might as well make several loaves. On this same day, my sister came over in the morning because a couple of her kids spent the night at my house the night before. And before she came, I texted her and asked her if she could bring me some flour because I was completely out and I had plans of making this zucchini bread. So thankfully, she had extra flour and brought it to me. So I was able to make my zucchini bread. And she also brought me some milk. And so after I get this zucchini bread all prepped and in the oven, I'm going to be making some yogurt. The recipe that I'm following called for applesauce. That's why I added that in. And then I also added in some chocolate chips. I don't always add in chocolate chips when I make zucchini bread, but I had some that I thought it would be a fun addition, and it was just so good. This stuff is great just plain. Honestly, it tastes like a dessert, but we typically like to top it with some butter, drink it with a glass of milk, and it just makes a nice breakfast, snack, dessert, anything. So that's why I like to have a lot of this on hand. Now, when I was putting this in the oven, I also threw in one sweet potato. My baby has not been interested in any food quite yet, but I thought I would try him on a sweet potato. He didn't really like it. I don't know, all of my kids start food way later than normal, so I know it's nothing to be concerned about because I have seen this lots of times, and they typically aren't ready for food until they're closer to age 1. All right, so now I'm getting my yogurt going in my Instapot. So for this, I just put a little bit of milk in my Instapot and heat it up and add in a couple tablespoons of gelatin. I like it to add in the gelatin because it just makes a thicker yogurt. And then I add in the rest of the milk. For this time I'm making 1.5 gallons. That's how much my Instapot can hold. Then I'm adding in a little bit of yogurt starter. I will whisk this up, put it in the Instapot and set it on the yogurt setting. And I leave it for 24 hours to get it nice and fermented and full of all those probiotics. Okay, so for lunch today, we actually have some leftovers. We were at my parents' house the night before this, and my mom sent me home with some elk burgers and some homemade baked beans. She had made a big meal and had some leftovers, so we got to take those home. So I'm just making some zucchini tater tots to go along with this. This was something that my sister was telling me about that she made, so I thought I would try it. It's just shredded zucchini, cheddar cheese, a little bit of salt and pepper, and I just mix it all up, and then I just form them into, I guess, like what a tater tot would be, and put it on a baking dish lined with parchment paper, and I baked these, and they were so good. We actually dipped them in ketchup, and they were delicious. When I was finished with those, we had a little bit of zucchini left, so I just put that in a little Ziploc bag, and I will just put that in the refrigerator. I like to saute zucchini in eggs, and so I'll just do that in the morning to use the rest of the zucchini. While the zucchini was baking, I put in the leftover elk burgers and also the baked beans to warm up. And then I am using some of my cucumbers to make some refrigerator pickles. My daughter actually made a batch of them yesterday, and I'm going to make another batch now, just so whenever we eat the ones that she had, we'll have some more in the refrigerator for the next meal, because they take about 24 hours to be ready. So for these, it's just sliced cucumbers, a little bit of water and white vinegar, and then I add in some salt and dill seed, and then I just put it in the refrigerator, and like I said, after 24 hours they are ready to go. My kids love these, and since we have so many cucumbers, we will be enjoying these with every meal. So I am taking out the ones that she had made the day before and replacing them, so we keep having them coming. All right, you guys might have noticed my huge, pretty flower arrangement on my table. My sister-in-law got married over the weekend, and my daughter and I were both in the wedding. So those are our bouquets that I just put in a jar and put on the table. I just think they are so pretty, and I love having that as a centerpiece. This next meal I'm going to be making is just a really simple meal. I'm doing roasted chicken and some roasted yellow squash. I'm going to leave all the squash and zucchini out on the table so I can continue to use it before any of it goes bad. I won't get into any of my frozen vegetables or buy any more veggies from the store until we use all of these up. I'm just tossing the squash in some olive oil and some spices, and I'm just going to roast them in the oven. This is one of my favorite ways to eat yellow squash. On this particular day, my sister and I are taking the kids to the pool, so I am prepping this meal during nap time to get it all ready to go, because after the pool, we usually get home right at dinner time and the kids are really hungry, and so I try on pool days to prep the meal before, and then my husband will just throw this in the oven, so then whenever we get home, everything will be ready. I didn't get a final clip of this meal because when we did get home, like I said, everyone was hungry and tired, so it completely slipped my mind. We just ate it all and got the kids in bed, so I totally forgot to get a final clip of that meal. Okay, this last meal I'm going to share with you, I'm just making some burgers and ribeyes, and I'm also going to be doing some more of that yellow squash the exact same way I made it yesterday. I'm making it again today because everybody really enjoyed it. Like I said, we have lots of squash to get through. This is a rare day where we only have a few of the kids at home. My older kids spent the night at my mother-in-law's, and then my daughter is spending the day at my sister's house, and so I didn't need as much food as I normally do. So my husband and I are going to have the ribeye steaks, and then I'm making burgers for my younger kids. And then after this lunch, we did make some ice cream. We have a lot of milk from my sister right now, so we had to find a way to use it. And my son said that we should make ice cream since it's kind of a special day since not all of the kids are home. So during nap time, my son and I made some ice cream. For my ribeyes, I like to get my skillet nice and hot. I put some butter in there and just put them on, only flip them once, add some seasoning. Usually I would add some garlic, but I'm actually out right now, so I just did them that way. They were so good. And then for lunch today, I'm making myself what we call a spritzer. It is just some sparkling water on ice with a splash of cranberry juice. That is something that I like to do during the summertime. It's so refreshing, and I just like a cold drink when it's really hot outside. I am serving up this meal with some of the refrigerator pickles and some of the roasted yellow squash. For the ice cream, I just add some milk and sugar to my blender. I blend it up, and then I add in some cream. I'm just skimming the cream off the top of the milk, adding in a little bit of vanilla, and then I will pulse it just a couple of times to get everything mixed together, and then I pour all of this into my ice cream maker. I will link the ice cream maker that I am using down in my description box below. I highly recommend it if you want to make ice cream. We have had this same one for over a year now, and it works very well. The one thing you have to do is just make sure that your freezer bowl is frozen, so we store that in the freezer so it's always ready to go when we want to make another batch of ice cream. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're new here, please hit that subscriber button. I get out a new video every single week.